exactly the most
There's nothing that stops you.
an aggressive growth
sense out of
Yeah, actually, you get the book. Read the first chapter.
That's even better.
Rapid shield line.
And you know,
Happy Monday, Ty. Welcome back from a long weekend.
I know. Happy post 4th of July. Shar, do you know that today is considered a very lucky and wealthy and positive day?
Because it's 777.
7/7/25, which is 7. Yeah.
Yes. I found that out last night as I was prepping for my day. I was
Yep.
like, is this for real? And I
Yeah.
thought, Shar, you're just losing it. No, wait. Well, I love numerology. I believe in the numbers. Numbers are real. That's how the universe makes what I consider resets and provides abundance. So tell me, Ty, like in your own words, like how did you come up with the 777? Like what was your like thing?
I didn't know anything about it. I'll be honest, I didn't know anything about it. One of my business partners from we were on a call this morning just covering the rest of the week, and he was like, "Did you know?" And I was like, "I did not." I often don't even know the day that whatever the day is until much later in the day. But no, when he told me that, it made sense. Like, I got into numerology a little bit last year with a friend of mine who explained that the numbers of last year were a lucky year for me because there were a lot of fours involved. And it was a good year. Last year was a good year. So looking forward to today being a great day.
Oh, wow. Guys, you know what that means though? Part of your own discovery as a coach, as a business owner, you're going to evolve. And Ty, I really wanted you to kind of emphasize that, you just came into it, but it's been a part of you as you've moved forward. A lot of us start businesses and we don't understand what I consider. A lot of people don't believe in the woo. And I'm like, you know what? You got to know it. You got to understand it because energy attracts energy.
It's not even the woo. I think it's a system of, and it kind of feeds into our topic today. It's a system of looking at trends, right? And if you take the time to look at patterns, I'm a performance coach. I studied Gallup and StrengthsFinder, and one of my strengths is strategic. Strategic has the ability to see patterns in how we do things, and so I constantly look for how two things connect. I constantly look for the repetition cycle of things. I constantly look for patterns. And often when I coach, I tell people like, okay, you have to understand, look at your past, what worked well, what happened when that thing worked well, how can you recreate the conditions under which that thing worked well. And so it is really looking at patterns to understand, okay, what gave me success in the past, and what do I need to reproduce or adapt or evolve or shape or look for in the future as I want to recreate that success.
Wow. And guys, I think that word trends, a lot of us, start businesses because there's a trend, right? And so it goes up and then it dies. But principles in business, successful business all have, like you said, Ty, a successful pattern to follow. That is key, guys, as you try to mimic or to what I consider copy the most successful person in the room because they've already got it figured out. Stop trying to recreate something.
100%. Like success exists, right? People are successful. People have been successful. You've been successful. If you just take the time to understand what that is. And I had a lesson in this, instead of trying to start a new thing or recreate something new, kind of look at patterns for what existed, what works, what worked for you, what worked for somebody else, and try to recreate that in a modern with a relevant feel. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes it's about taking something that worked in one area and adapting it to a new area. That's how innovation works. That's how different platforms that we've had innovated and came up with a new version of what they were doing and are successful. All we have to do, like, success has already happened. It's just about taking that success and shifting it in a different way.
Well, and I love that because, guys, when you think about, strategic advisory teams and coaching, part of that, and this is your experience, Ty, part of that is to find out how the whole thing works and then how do you help it get to where it wants to go. And Ty, I've seen this time and time again. A lot of coaches who are corporate trained, they don't have an easy time to transition into entrepreneurship. It's a very different set of skills. It's a very different set of roles and responsibilities.
Yeah, no, because when you are in corporate, you're isolated and you're in a niche of your own, right? Whether that you're a salesperson or whether you're a marketing person, that's the thing you know. Now, for you to go out and teach that and build a business around it, now you got to learn other things. You got to learn accounting. You got to learn, if you're marketing, you got to learn sales. If you're sales, you got to learn marketing. You know, you have to learn the other parts of what makes up the whole business, and you can't just stay in that. So many people have failed at just doing the thing that they thought they were doing and delivering that thing without building the rest of the business around them. And it's because
Right.
you getting into entrepreneurship isn't doing what you've already done over and over again. It's doing what you've done on a bigger scale with an ecosystem around you. That's entrepreneurship, right? If you think that you're a great product developer and you want to go be a product developer for other people, that's fantastic. But you've got to know how much product units you have to sell, how many contracts, what's the right price, how do you market that product, what do you position it as, how your competition is, how do you stack against the competition. All of those things is what's going to make you a successful product manager running your own business.
Right. And I think this exploded during COVID when the market had changed and a lot of corporate had to move, but they couldn't because they were like the Titanic. They were so set in their ways. They had such a big operation, they couldn't pivot as fast. And so
Mhm.
I think the future of startup, this role I feel like in coaching and jumping into entrepreneurship, like you said, you have to be able to adapt to what the current landscape is. And Ty, you and I have seen this every time there's a new set of what I consider conditions in the marketplace, you see these shifts.
Yeah. So when we look at the concept of the future of coaching, Shar, and startup advisory, it is that same thing about looking at patterns, looking at what worked well, looking at a structure, understanding that if you're going from product development into a business with an ecosystem around you, all those things are necessary. But today we have more technology, we have more hardware, we have more software, we have more tools, we have more access, we have more market, we have more ways to do that better. So the formula stays the same, but the delivery, that changes. The delivery now can be optimized. And so it is much easier now than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago to go into startup, to advise a startup, to go into coaching and build all those systems around you to be successful. The thing is that you have to first start with awareness of knowing what those tool systems and that what is the ecosystem that you need to build. And then you have to look for the tools and resources that will help you get there faster. But you have to also know what you're really good at and your methodology, your specific foundation, and make sure that's cemented. Because a lot of people I find are going this route of like whipping something up, throwing it out to market, seeing if it sticks, and then not realizing that there's an impact to the people that they are marketing to, that they are engaging with. You have to have it well thought out. You have to have it all built out. You have to have it really thought about. And yes, you'll pivot as you do it, but you still have to have that foundation to build off of from there.
Mhm. And I think about the next alpha, right, generation
Uh-huh.
where they don't talk. It's either text message. I mean, guys, this is your customer that you're coming into, right? They're going to take those corporate jobs, then they're going to come out, they're going to want some entrepreneurship goals. Ty, they're changing
Yeah.
drastically and quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I know somebody who just 100% only sticks to Signal, and we chat, and that's it, just text back and forth. And this generation is not one that really needs a lot of human touch or a lot of interaction, but that's the future, right? They still need the methodology, they still need the
Right.
training, the coaching, the advice, but they don't need the interaction. And if you're coming in again trying to reproduce what you think you know as opposed to adapting to the future, you're going to get stuck. You're going to lose a lot of the market you want to gain.
Mhm. And Ty, that's a perfect example because this client that I'm coaching right now, started a business and they said, well, now my client, he has 80 clients. Now his client said, hey, I've got ChatGPT telling me something different. And he was like, well, that's part of the problem, right? Because whatever you're putting into it isn't telling you what you need because you don't have the depth and aptitude client to understand why this needs to happen. And so sometimes technology guys may what I consider interrupt maybe the normal coaching where you're meeting them weekly, you're talking to them, and they're like, "Well, I have all these things to prove." And I told him, and this was just kind of frustrating to him. I said, "You are still the expert authority because of how you're using technology to manage these clients. The problem is when your client comes up with that, you have to make sure that you can stick to what you're teaching and you're coaching for them."
So a lot of people are using ChatGPT to ask questions and get answers. Here's the reality. I akin ChatGPT to WebMD when it came out, right?
Oh yeah.
Once people got onto WebMD, they started self-diagnosing. Well, I have this pain in my leg. I'm gonna just look it up, and they became the doctor. And then they go to the doctor, and the doctor's, well, you might have the pain in your leg, but it could stem from something else, and you have a whole different interpretation of the same problem. Similarly, you have to get a prescription for that problem that may be different from what WebMD said. Now, the reality is ChatGPT is amassing objective information. You give it an input, you ask a question, it gives you put the input, it gives you output. But a coach still has to tell you how that worked for them, the experience they had with it, what worked when it was tried and what didn't work when it was tried with another client. The coach brings in the experience that the answer doesn't necessarily give you, the context that doesn't necessarily give you. It could tell you a story. ChatGPT can tell you a story. ChatGPT can tell you a formula. It can tell you a methodology. But the reality is, unless you sit with someone who's actually been through it, who's practiced it, who can give you the nuances of it, you're not going to get that from a ChatGPT.
Right.
Just like the doctor has to be the one to tell you, well, why that pain came where it is, and feel and touch and massage and show you where the origination of that problem was. So does the coach have to tell you, well, here are other things that have happened, the perspectives that they have had, like their own experience dealing with that issue.
Right. And guys, we want you to know how to utilize technology, right? As you look at the future of what the next 30, 60, 90 days may be in your business, and you're trying to come up with the core offer. Ty, I've seen some people run funnels, right? A 3-day challenge, like we're going to run just in a couple of weeks, guys, about your coaching business. Many of you guys want to know how to use it, but our question is, what does your customer respond to the way that you're going to go about it?
Yeah.
Some of them will, and some of them won't.
Yeah, no, I mean, AI is here. Don't avoid it. Like people who are like, I'm waiting it out, or I want to say, like, AI is here. It's not going anywhere. In fact, it's going to get more ingrained in everything that you're using. I was on a call this morning again with somebody who was telling me about the different applications of Gemini and how it can actually, you can put a calendar item in an Excel spreadsheet, and Gemini will go look for space on your calendar and book that appointment on your calendar as you put it in that spreadsheet. So it's part of what you're doing. Your job is to understand how it can help you build a business, not how it can substitute for advice that you need with a coach. Or if you are the coach, your job is to figure out how can it supplement your tools, your technology, your access to market, your operating plan, all of those things, so that you can live in your zone of genius with your clients.
I really benefit from what you just said, Ty, because I feel like the number one thing, guys, that will never ever be replaced is emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
No matter how much AI gets inputted with information, how we think, what things look like and feel like, none of that is possible, because when you're coaching, you're dealing with a person.
Yep, that human element. This is something that that's really interesting, because before I got into coaching in a big way, one of the things that I did, I built a networking company, and we went in and we built a system around the introvert's networking experience, right? When an introvert goes to an event, how can they facilitate networking in a way that's attuned to an introvert? Because networking, you go in a room, it's crowded. How do you walk up to somebody and meet? That's terrifying for somebody who's an introvert.
Right.
So we built an entire system. It grew. We got 10,000 people in multiple countries in 18 months.
Wow.
The reality is that human touch, that human interaction, building a system and a company around that, 20 years later, who's talking about that? Not even 20, 10 years later, it's about apps and connecting online and swiping right and doing all of the technology items and things to avoid human interaction, not to bring somebody who's anti-human into the human world, but rather to give that person who's anti-human more anti-human tools to use. If we fast forward, COVID happens and technology is the thing. Technology needed to happen so that everybody can stay connected without the human touch. But what's a competitive advantage today post the COVID world? We see companies bringing their employees back to work. We see more and more in-person events. We see a lot of people driving. Where's the next networking opportunity? We see a lot of things that are happening on the calendar over the weekend. Now in-person is now sexy and cool and relevant again. And so it's very cyclical. We can technologize our way to everything, but at the end of the day, the competitive advantage will always come back to being that human connection, that human touch.
Mm. And guys, I think that needs to be part of your business planning. It needs to be a part of your marketing and your sales process because the human touch is still relevant. You guys are going to use, a CRM and send out 10,000 emails. That's a part of the nurturing sequence, but that's not part of the sale. The sale is you're still working in a people-centric business who is going to still take money from a person. You're still going to deal with the person, and when you're delivering services, so the more human-like you can make it, whether it's a training, whether it's LinkedIn Lives. Ty, you and I have laughed about this because a lot of people want to use technology just to kind of automate that process, but yet they miss the human component.
Yeah, 100%. It's really understanding. This all boils down to one thing, Shar. The
Yeah.
future of startup advisory, the future of coaching, leadership trends. This boils down to one real thing: understanding why you're getting into coaching, what your value proposition is, who you are, your methodology, and the foundation you want to build and build off of, and then the role technology plays in that.
Mm.
It's about working on the business before you start working in the business and setting up a game plan that says, I am a really good marketing coach, performance coach. I'm a really good leadership coach. And these are my methodologies. These are my 6 principles I want to espouse. These are the ways I want to teach them. These are the examples that I've had. This is my resume for success. That's the human element. Now I'm going to introduce a CRM. I'm going to have a coaching application form. I'm going to have a digital SOP. I'm going to do all of the tech things to support this, but I'm going to make sure that that message is consistent and it's pervasive in my marketing and how I speak to my audience. And I'm going to adapt these tools that help me get there. So really and truly knowing going into coaching, scaling and growing your coaching, this is where the human part lives and this is where the technology part lives. And that's what we're going to scale and grow throughout the entire course of our business. And we're never going to substitute the human part with technology, because then we lose that element that we want to push forward, that we will lose the coaching opportunity.
Right. Guys, and so when you look at your business, Ty and I is saying to you, working on the business before you get into the business is much more successful in the way you launch, in the way you do business, than anything you could possibly be doing right now. Working on the business. A lot of people want to just get in, run and gun. And Ty, you and I've seen, failure after failure because they forget that part, right? They forget the working on the business components, which make the business actually more successful. That part is critical.
100%. I mean, and when you work on the business before you get started, then you work in the business as you do it, you have to come back to working on the business at least once a quarter to make sure that you're staying true to what you plan, to make sure that you're continuing to develop and grow, to making sure that your methodologies continue to evolve. You still, and your finances are where they need to be, you're attracting the right price, you may need to pivot on the product, et cetera, but you still have to continuously work on the business, and the future of your business requires that.
Wow. Guys, again, this is the reason why Ty's vision of CoachCon was so important to all of us coaches who are seasoned, coaches who are just starting, coaches who are in the middle of their build. We get it, we understand it, but what is it about CoachCon, Ty? We are on our way for our 3-day live that's coming up in 2 weeks. We're on our way for the speakers who are there. I mean, we are just getting these things knocked out. I mean, you guys have to understand, Ty is all in making this happen for us.
Shar, CoachCon is taking off. We actually spent this past weekend with a lot of our coaches, our speakers that are coming in, and their topics are so exciting and riveting. The topics are they speak to topics like this, right? We talk about leadership, we talk about vision, we talk about really making sure that you're cementing your values in how you deliver. We talk about how avoiding burnout is a critical part of being the coach, especially at the early stage of business. A lot of coaches fail largely because they end up finding out that, wow, I'm working 12, 14, 15-hour days, but they're not doing what we're saying here, which is using the technology to come in and really supplement that so they're not working 14-hour days. So they're spending really the core of 6 hours a day on their business. They're spending 6 hours a day doing their zone of genius, and they're using technology for the best. So Coach Con we're doing the job of not just telling you exactly what you need to do to build your business, not just bringing the speakers with their zone of genius, but we're actually living it and practicing it with you. We're bringing the talent, and we're using technology to get that talent's message to you. So we're really excited about Coach Con. We're excited to share more and more information. In the coming weeks, you'll start seeing some of our speakers come on these sessions and have chats with Shar or with me, and tell you a little bit more about what they intend to bring and the value they intend to bring to you. So we're really excited. If you haven't registered yet, go to check out www.coachcon.global. Come check us out, or check out our challenge that's coming up in 2 weeks. Check out the webinars that we do every other Thursday. We're really, really excited to bring this opportunity to you.
Of course. Thanks so much, Ty. And again, every week, guys, we commit this time because we want to help you build your business. We're also building you at the same time, because this is what it takes to be successful, is to take who you are at this moment and help mold you into that person you want to become. Thanks so much, Ty, for everything you do. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Shar. Happy 777.
777, guys.